Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the 3-2-1 Leadership Podcast with me, Pastor Jeff. It's my joy to do this thing with you. We're always trying to find the current ceiling of our leadership and find ways to break through it by growing our leadership and honoring God along the way. What we've been doing for the last several months has been, we've been going through a series called the A to Z training. And what I want to do today we're about halfway through, so I want to kind of do a review because I think a review will help us look at this content, and instead of just learning like the flavor of the month lesson, we can actually zoom out and look at how each of the lessons we're doing are part of a bigger picture. And that's really important because the point of A to Z isn't to give you just a bunch of random lessons. It's actually to give you a map for your leadership that you can use at every stage of your leadership journey, especially as your organization grows and changes. And so in this training, there's 7 catalysts, and each podcast is meant to cover one of those 7 catalysts. And then over 7 months' time, we might do a couple 2-parters, but over 7 months' time, or over the course of getting through all the episodes, each of the 7 catalysts go together to be the complete A to Z roadmap. And a really important lesson for our leadership is that it's not good enough to just know where we hope to go on our leadership journey. It's important to know where we're actually at on the map, where we're actually at the journey, so that we know how to plan and prepare, and work towards what's next in a healthy and God-honoring way. What's tricky about this is that with leadership, there's a lot of things that it used to work here and it doesn't work there, and it worked there but it wouldn't work here, and vice versa. When we think of like the progressive map of our leadership, it's like there are some things that at the beginning of your journey, they don't work midway through your journey, or at the I don't know what the end of your journey is, but like vision fulfillment, I guess. But things at the end of your journey that work great that wouldn't work at all at the beginning of your journey. And so there's all this kind of nuance of figuring out how those things work together. And I've seen that in churches, I've seen that in teams, I've seen that in leaders where something worked and you just kept doing it even when everything around you kind of changed. It didn't work anymore. And so today I want to really be really simple and try to be really powerful and effective. And I just want to help you look at the A to Z map, especially now that you've learned half of the lessons from A to Z. I want you to be able to figure out how those lessons work with the A to Z map. What that means is today is a review episode. So what does A represent? What does Z represent? And then how do some of these lessons fall into place in the middle of that? Now, what makes A to Z a little bit tricky is A can mean different things depending on how you're mapping out. Z can mean different things based on how you're mapping out, and every letter in between. In fact, a lot of times when I'm coaching leaders, in fact, if you're part of my team, when I taught you this several months ago, I'll have you looking at 2 or 3 maps at the same time. I'm going to show you 3 maps for today's exercise. And the first map is the organizational map. So for the organizational map, A represents, the beginning of the organization, or the beginning of it clarifying its mission or goal or whatever. Like whatever beginning you can represent for your organization, A is the beginning of that. And then Z is the fully realized potential and mission and vision. Like if you are actually accomplishing all the things that you hope to accomplish, the thing you want to protect, the thing you want to save, the difference you want to make in the world. If you're doing that, that's Z. And then continuing and perpetuating that awesome thing that you're doing. So that's one map. The other map, so the first map would be the organization. The second map is the team. Your team has its own A to Z that corresponds with the organizational A to Z. So the organization could be at H on its journey of whatever great thing it wants to do. But then your team could be at A or C or a Z. Your team might not function at the same level as the organization, either less with less excellence or less quality, or maybe it's a little more put together than the rest of the organization. And I've seen both things play out, where your team, it's an outlier. But I would argue that the organization is the average of all the teams and all the departments of the organization. So if one team in the organization is functioning at X And then a bunch of teams are, L, M, N, O, P, and the average is N. You're you're an outlier, but you're kind of closer to the average. Some other team or department in the organization might be J or K. You have outliers on the sides, but the organization is going to really kind of get stuck in the average of the teams. And I'm going to expand on this with an example so this will make a little more sense. Right now, I just want to show you the three maps. First map is the organization. Second map is the team. And so A is, the beginning of your team and its capability of fulfilling that mission or vision. And then Z is, even if the organization isn't fulfilling its mission or vision completely, Z would be your team's capable of doing it at the level needed when the organization gets to that level. So again, I'll give you an example. This will make a lot more sense in a little bit, but organization, and then team, and then you as the leader is another way you could map it out. Your leadership capacity at A is different than your leadership capacity at Z. The leadership demands on you are different at different stages. A is, you just started. Z is your capability. You're capable of leading your team, your department at this high caliber level. You can lead at this high caliber level. And what happens is you need to understand the aspirational versus the actual fulfillment of these things. This is what is really important. It's almost like a leadership trap to identify. So aspirational value is who we want to be. And I find that a lot of times in a season of newness or a season of momentum, zeal can kind of confuse us into thinking that we're farther along than when we really are. I think of when something's new, when it's leadership, organizational ambition or whatever, it's really easy to because you're so excited and passionate to think you're fulfilling your vision and kind of blindly think that you're at the actual level when you just have an aspiration to do it. And that's very different. Whereas the actual value, it's who you really are consistently. It's really who you are consistently. Again, like your organization's the average of the teams or the departments. Like, who are you really? You might have a team that's doing, Y level things almost to Z, and then that's exciting. So you maybe feel like everybody's there, but they're not. Maybe everybody else is still back at P or Q, and there you go. And so it's really important to have the analysis of where's the organization, where's your team, where's your leadership in an actual way, while also identifying the aspirational value, like where you're hoping to be, but don't mix them up. Don't mix them up and deceive yourself. And I'll use a little bit of a negative example to illustrate this, like B is just not as capable as Z. You just need to develop. But I want to give you a positive framework for it. A is the vision is believed. Z, the vision is built and fulfilled. Okay, and everything else is a progression towards that vision along the way. Now, this matters. I want you to think about it this way. If you're B as a leader serving a team functioning at C, trying to accomplish H, you're going to be in chaos. Like, it's going to hurt so bad. So it's really important to try to strategically, and don't overthink this. It's not too complicated, but it's helpful to understand. But it's really important to say, like, okay, my leadership needs to get ahead of my team. So I'm going to go through a season of investing in my leadership to be able to take my C team to a H team, and the organization's at EFG, and so I need to get my team up there. That doesn't work if your leadership is way behind the team's potential or current capacity. So either you replace yourself with somebody who can do it, or you grow into it. Obviously, our goal, we're being positive, we're leaning into it. We're leaning into it. You're gonna grow into it. All right. Let me give you an example to flush this out, and I'm going to start applying some of the lessons that we've acquired throughout this series. This is a really dramatic example. It's not our church vision. It's a dramatization of it, but we want to reach and disciple every single person on planet Earth. Let's say that's our vision as a church. We as an organization want to reach and disciple every single person on planet Earth, all 8 billion of them. It's a big vision. I know it's unrealistic, but it's going to help us frame A to Z. So A is we just started as an organization and we have a handful of people hoping to do it. And then Z means every single person, 100% of the world, every single person, 100% of the world is reached and being discipled by us. And when you frame that as your vision for the organization, it's easy to mistake all the letters leading up to it. So it's like, okay, A is 1% of the world, and the next letter, one of the letters is 5% of the world, and then another letter is 10% of the world, and another letter is 50% of the world, and then 75% of the world. And that's the wrong way to build your A to Z map. You want different milestones to figure out how you're progressing in your pursuit of your vision. So let's play with this example. B is build a powerhouse local church. If you're going to disciple everybody in the whole wide world, you need a good, mother church to be the launch pad of it all. So B on the map would be build a powerhouse local church. Strong leadership, healthy systems, clear culture, reproducibility. You can do stuff not globally yet, but the local church that you lead is just a powerhouse. And then D, maybe we'll jump down the letter a little bit, would be like expand beyond your immediate context. So now you're a regionally impacting ministry, right? Right now you're regionally impacting. Awesome stuff, exciting. And then maybe F, you're not worried about 50% of the planet yet. Right now you just need to have a ministry on every continent, right? One ministry on every continent, even Antarctica, like everywhere. So now you are making progress on, hey, we're going to disciple every person in the world. And then you get to, H, and now you need, 5 or 10 or 50 ministries per continent. And you're building a real global ministry network. And then N, now you're measuring yourself like, okay, by N or M or N or somewhere in there, you want to have 50% of the world reached. You want to have 50%. You want to have 50% of the world reached at M. And so you need some sort of ability to measure it, and you need leadership structure that's your leadership structure and your systems and everything. I'm going to come back to this in a little bit, but your leadership system, your structures, those need to be at a whole new level in order to manage ministries overseeing 50% of the planet. This is amazing. Good job, 50% of the planet reaching ministry. And then by T, you become a global movement. By T, you're a global movement. You're like you can see Z from here. You're this global movement. The impact you have is just out of this world. I know this is almost inconceivable for me, so I don't know how to frame out T, but you get the idea. We're having fun. Dramatic example. And then Z. You don't believe this, but 100% of the world is being reached and discipled by your ministry. Bravo. And you have systems in place to sustain it as the world goes and grows and flows along the way. It's sustainable, it's built, and you're going to just fight to keep it healthy. Now, bring that example to our A to Z lessons. Each point, there are some things that matter every step of the way. And that's the point of A to Z, to show you that there's 7 catalysts that help you measure how to lead at each step of the journey. 7 catalysts that help you measure how to lead at every step of the journey. So I'm going to list all 7 of them, and then I'll explain the A to Z with all of them in context in a minute. So first one is vision alignment. Second one is communication and collaboration. The third one is systems building and maintenance. The fourth one is leadership development and empowerment. The fifth one is culture and health. The sixth one is problem solving and adaptability. And the seventh one is spiritual health and overall growth, personal growth. They're not in a particular order of importance. They all matter every step of the way. But when you look at this, like at B, when you're launching your ministry that's going to disciple 100% of the world, the vision is simple, it's easily understood, it's relational, communication, because we've studied the first three: vision, communication, and systems. Systems are still forming. You're still building the foundation that's going to help do all the other things. So systems are still forming. Communication is very relational, and vision is very simple. But by the time you're at letter H and you're multi-continent, again, good job. The way that you need to cast vision has to have dramatically increased in quality and frequency. And it matters. Vision will continually matter at every step of the journey, but it matters differently. It matters more. It needs to adapt. Vision doesn't need to change, but you need to get better at casting vision and helping other people cast vision. Communication, can you imagine the way you need to communicate when you're running a multi-continent organization? And then the systems to protect the unity and communication's a system, and vision casting's a system. Systems are everywhere. You can't just rely on being relational, because there's so many people doing so many things so far away that you can't just be on top of it together all the time. You need clear communication like you can't believe, and clear systems and all this stuff. But then by the time you get to T, I can't. By the time you get to T, I can't imagine the level of vision casting required to do that. It's outrageous. Communication has to be decentralized, but also aligned at the same time. Again, your communication ability needs to be just superb, especially if your model is to be one organization doing this global thing, not 100 organizations by the time you're 50%, 75%, 90% of the world. This is crazy. And then the systems run without you, because there's systems for systems for systems for people who have systems for systems for systems. And again, it's such a big idea. I don't even know how to explain it at this level, but I think my dramatization of it will help you see that it's the same catalyst, and it needs to scale and change and transform. And a lot of times I use the phrasing to go from good to great, but what's really interesting is good and great is defined differently by the time you get to different stages. So it's your T-level communication would be just silly overkill when your organization at letter B, right? You're just building the foundation of the powerhouse local ministry. That they don't have a use for a lot of that high-level communication systems that you have. Some would just be useless at that stage. And so what's good here is not as helpful here, but what's really helpful here may not be as helpful, back here. And so it's really important. What I'm getting at is this: it's really important to analyze and reanalyze with some frequency, to make sure that things have adapted and grown along the way, especially with these 7 things. These 7 things, if you do them well and consistently adapt them to the season or the letter on the map that you're at, then you're actually breaking through ceiling after ceiling after ceiling before you even hit that ceiling. What I want to challenge you to do is to draw out your A to Z for your organization. I want you to draw out your A to Z for your team or your department. I want you to draw out A to Z for your personal leadership. And I want you to reevaluate, especially we started this several months ago, so you probably made some progress. So I want you to evaluate and reevaluate: where's your organization, where is your team, and where is your personal leadership. I want you to put the actual value where you're actually at on your leadership journey, and is your team and your organization, A to Z. Make sure you have a clear understanding what Z is, what's the mission, what's the vision. And remember, most organizations from past episode, they either exist to complete a vision that is protecting something that's sacred, or solve a problem that they can't stand in the world. That's usually what you're doing. You're trying to solve a problem or protect something that's special. And so what's the vision? Where are you at? Where's the organization? Where's your leadership? And then what just using the 3 things we've done in the last few episodes, maybe go and review those episodes since this one is super light and simple, not drowning you in new content, literally just reviewing from a 30,000 foot view. But looking at those 3 maps, what is your actual reality? And then what is your aspiration? Be realistic. You're not going to jump to Z. If you're at H, what do you need to do to get to your team, to get yourself to J or K, to help the organization get to L and M? What is that? And I want you to find and give yourself some accountability that by the time the next podcast drops in a month from now, that you will have one thing to work on in your personal leadership and one thing to work on in your team using, let me back up for a minute. I want you to use the 3 things we've talked about so far: vision casting, communication, and systems. So again, hey, I hope this is helpful. Drop a comment. Be sure to like, subscribe. We need way more people liking, subscribing, and commenting. So that would help us a ton, especially when we want to make more content. And until then, we'll see you next time. Love you guys to pieces. And thanks for sharing your time with me.